The distress signal tore through subspace like a scream. Commander Ethan Cross slammed his fist on the console as the transmission looped again. 47 Corvathi colony ships burning in the void, 300,000 civilians trapped inside hulls melting from plasma fire. The Zethran swarm had found them. Sir, we're 2 days out at maximum burn, Lieutenant Kira Valdez reported from navigation, her knuckles white on the controls. They don't have 2 hours. The bridge of the cargo hauler Nightfall went silent. 18 crew members, 1 aging frigate retrofit, and enough mining explosives to crack an asteroid. That was all Earth had in this sector. The Coalition fleet was 3 systems away, celebrating another diplomatic victory while actual people died. Ethan's jaw clenched. The Corvathi had rejected Earth's petition for membership twice, called humans reckless, dangerous, too young for the galactic stage. Now their distress beacons screamed across the same channels that had denied humanity a voice. Captain Cross, regulations state we cannot engage a swarm fleet. His XO, Danny Riggs, said quietly. We're a cargo vessel. We'll be slaughtered. Noted. Ethan pulled up the tactical display. 17 Zethran hunters circling the colony convoy like sharks. Plasma cutters peeling ships open section by section, extracting whatever resources the swarm deemed valuable, including the Corvi themselves. His crew stared at him, waiting. Earth had 6 billion people who wanted acceptance, wanted a matter, wanted the galaxy to see them as equals, instead of primitives playing with FTL drives they barely understood. But Ethan had watched the Zethran swarm devour a mining station once, heard the screams, saw the aftermath. He didn't care what the Corvathi thought of humanity. He cared about 300,000 lives burning in the dark. Valdez, plot an intercept course. Maximum burn. Sir, you heard me. Riggs, get engineering to reroute everything to engines and shields. Strip life support from cargo holds 1 through 5. Redirect it all. We'll tear the ship apart, Riggs protested. Then we better make it count. Weapons. I need every mining charge armed and ready. Henderson, can you rig the cargo bay doors to blow outward on command? Chief Henderson grinned from his engineering station. Can and will, Captain. The Nightfall shuddered as her ancient engines screamed to life. Metal groaned. Hull plates rattled. The ship had hauled ore for 30 years. Now she would haul hope. Kira's voice cut through the chaos. Sir, updated scans. The swarm is starting to breach the colony ships. They're boarding. Ethan felt ice settle in his chest. Once the swarm got inside, it was over. They'd harvest everything, leave nothing but drifting shells. Time to intercept. 94 minutes if the engines hold. Make it 80. I don't care how. The Nightfall roared forward into the black, carrying 1 human crew towards 17 alien warships and a rescue no one expected. Earth wasn't meant to save them, but 1 human would try anyway. The Nightfall burst from subspace like a bullet through glass. Ethan's tactical display erupted with hostile contacts. 17 Zethran hunters, each one triple the Nightfall's mass, swarmed the Corvathi convoy in a grotesque ballet of destruction. Plasma beams carved through colony ship hulls, atmosphere vented in frozen plumes. Bodies tumbled into the void. Shields up. All power to forward sections, Ethan commanded. The nearest Zethran hunter rotated toward them. Its hull was organic, pulsing with bioluminescent veins. Weapon ports opened like mouths. They're targeting us, Kira announced. Good. Means they're not targeting the colonies. Henderson, status on those charges? Armed and ready. Captain, say the word and we'll light up their Christmas. Plasma fire lanced toward the Nightfall. The shields flared white-hot as energy splashed across them. The deck lurched. Sparks exploded from overhead panels. Shield integrity at 60%, Riggs called out. Return fire. Mining charges spread pattern. Henderson triggered the cargo bay doors. 43 mining explosives shot into space, each one broadcasting false mass signatures to confuse Zethran sensors. The charges scattered like seeds in a hurricane. The nearest hunter fired again. 1 charge detonated early, the explosion painting space orange, then another. Then 5 more in a cascading chain reaction that turned the void into a temporary sun. The Zethron hunter vanished in the blast. 1 down, Ethan said. 16 to go. Valdez, bring us around. Put us between the swarm and colony ship Theta 7. That's the one bleeding atmosphere fastest. Sir, 3 hunters breaking formation. They're coming for us. Course they were. Humans had just killed one of their own. The swarm didn't forgive. It didn't negotiate. It consumed. Ethan pulled up schematics of the colony ships. Theta 7 had 40,000 Corvathi aboard, life support failing, hull breaches on decks 9 through 15. The Zethran had already attached boarding pods to the outer hull like parasitic eggs. Henderson, can we cut those boarding pods loose, not without shredding the colony ship's hull in the process? Then we board ourselves. Riggs, assemble a team. Valdez, match velocity with Theta 7 and get us docked. Riggs stood frozen. Captain, we don't have the personnel for an assault. We're cargo haulers, not Marines. Then today we learn. Move. The Nightfall dove toward the stricken colony ship while 3 Zethran hunters closed from behind. Plasma fire chased them, superheating the aft shields until warning klaxons screamed throughout the bridge. Shields at 30%. Almost there, Kira breathed, her hands dancing across navigation controls. The Nightfall twisted through debris fields, skimming past torn metal and frozen bodies. A Corvathi child's toy tumbled past the viewport, its bright colors obscene against the carnage. The docking clamps engaged with a metallic shriek. Sealed, Kira confirmed. Ethan was already moving toward the airlock, grabbing a plasma cutter from the emergency locker. Riggs and 6 crew members followed, each armed with whatever tools could double as weapons. They had no armor, no training, no chance. They went anyway. The airlock cycled open. Ethan stepped into Theta 7's corridor and immediately understood why the Corvathi had rejected humanity. The interior was beautiful, crystalline walls that refracted light into dancing colors. Artwork depicting alien landscapes and pigments that shifted and changed. Everything designed with grace and elegance that Earth's utilitarian vessels could never match. The Zethran had destroyed it all. Scorch marks blackened the walls, bodies lay in twisted heaps. And ahead, Ethan heard the chittering, the wet organic sounds of the swarm feeding. Split up! Riggs, take your team aft and clear those boarding pods. I'll push forward to life support and see if we can stabilize it. Captain, we should stay together. No time. Go. Ethan ran deeper into the colony ship with 3 crew members at his back. The chittering grew louder. Around a corner, he found them. 5 Zethran drones crouched over Corvathi survivors, their blade limbs wet with dark blood. The aliens were insectoid nightmares, all chitin and mandibles and too many eyes. They turned toward the humans in perfect unison. For 1 heartbeat, both species stared at each other. Then Ethan raised his plasma cutter and fired. The first drone's head exploded in a spray of ichor. The others shrieked and charged. Behind him, his crew opened fire. Plasma bolts lit the corridor like lightning. A drone leaped at Ethan. He ducked, felt claws rake his shoulder, spun and drove the cutter into its thorax. The alien convulsed and fell. Another drone tackled Henderson to the ground. Its mandibles opened wide. Henderson jammed his industrial torch into its mouth and triggered maximum heat. The drone's head cooked from the inside. Within 30 seconds, all 5 lay dead. Ethan's shoulder burned where the claws had cut him. He ignored it. Ahead, a dozen Corvathi civilians huddled against a wall, their large eyes wide with terror and confusion. You're safe, Ethan said, knowing they probably didn't understand English. Stay here, we're getting you out. One of them, an elderly Corvathi with silver markings, spoke in halting standard. You are human. Your kind was denied. Why do you help us? Ethan checked his plasma cutter's charge, because it's the right thing to do. He didn't wait for a response. The life support center was 3 decks up, and more Zethran were coming. Earth wasn't meant to save them. But he'd be damned if he stopped now. The life support center was a slaughterhouse. Ethan counted 9 Corvathi technicians dead at their stations. The Zethran had killed them mid-repair, their crystalline blood pooling on control panels that still sparked with failing power. The air tasted like copper and ozone. Get those systems online, Ethan ordered. His crew member, a young engineer named Luis Garrett, rushed to the main console while Ethan and the others secured the entrances. The Nightfall's comm crackled. "Captain, this is Riggs. We've cleared 2 boarding pods, but there are 4 more. We're running out of charges and the Zethran are adapting. They're sending heavies." Heavies! Ethan had seen footage once. Zethran shock troops the size of cargo haulers, armored in living bone, armed with biological cannons that could melt through starship hulls. How long until they breach your position? 3 minutes. Maybe 4. Fall back to the docking junction. We'll regroup there. Captain, if we abandon these decks, the swarm will flood the ship. Ethan looked at Lewis working frantically at the controls, at the dead Corvathi who died trying to save their people, at the responsibility he'd taken on the moment he changed course. Then we don't abandon them. "I'm sending you coordinates. There's an emergency bulkhead system. Seal off the aft sections and vent them to space. Everything goes. The swarm, the boarding pods, all of it. Silence on the line." Then Riggs spoke carefully. "Sir, there are still Corvathi civilians in those sections." "How many?" "Scans show 83 life signs. 83 lives versus 40,000. The math was brutal and simple, but Ethan had not come here to make choices like the Coalition. He had not come here to calculate acceptable losses. Belay that order. New plan. "Kira, he's still on the Nightfall's bridge?" "Affirmative, Captain." "Detach from Theta 7. Bring the ship around to the aft sections, match hull to hull, and extend emergency umbilicals. We're extracting those civilians. Sir, if I detach now, you'll be trapped on the colony ship." "I know. Do it anyway." Luis looked up from the console, face pale. "Captain, I've got partial life support restored, but the system is failing. Someone sabotaged the primary reactor coupling. It's not battle damage. Someone deliberately destroyed it from the inside." Ethan felt ice run down his spine. "Show me." The display revealed the truth in cruel detail. The reactor coupling had been systematically dismantled with precision tools. This wasn't Zethran destruction. This was methodical. Planned. "The swarm didn't do this," Luis whispered. "Someone on this ship did." Before Ethan could respond, his comm exploded with screaming. Riggs's voice cut through the chaos. "Contact! We've got heavies breaching Deck 12. They're tearing through the bulkheads like paper. We need backup now." Ethan grabbed his plasma cutter. "Luis, keep working on life support. If you can get us another hour, do it. Where are you going to buy you that hour?" Ethan sprinted through corridors slick with blood and debris. 2 crew members followed. Behind them, the colony ship groaned as stressed metal began to fail. Somewhere in the distance, he heard the deep, resonant roar of a Zethran. He rounded a corner and found hell waiting. The heavy stood 3 meters tall, its carapace gleaming black in the emergency lighting. 4 arms ended in bone blades the length of swords. Its biological cannon was already charged, green energy crackling between organic capacitors. Riggs and his team were pinned behind overturned furniture, plasma cutters nearly depleted. A crew member lay motionless in a pool of blood. The heavy fired. The blast vaporized the furniture and everything behind it. "Riggs!" Ethan screamed. The XO rolled clear, uniform smoking. "Still here, Captain?" But not for long. Ethan analyzed the situation in seconds. The heavy was too armored for plasma cutters, too fast for explosives, and between them and escape were 4 Zethran drones providing support. Then he saw the environmental controls on the wall, the emergency vent system designed to purge toxic atmospheres in case of contamination. Everyone down the side corridor. "Now!" His team ran. The heavy tracked them with its cannon, energy building for another shot. Ethan fired his plasma cutter at the environmental panel, melting through safety locks and manual overrides. The heavy fired. Ethan threw himself sideways as the blast incinerated the wall where he'd stood. He hit the floor hard, rolled, came up and slammed his fist on the emergency vent release. The corridor exploded with hurricane-force decompression. The heavy was ripped off its feet and hurled backward into the Zethran drones. All 5 aliens tumbled through the breach into space, their screams cut short by vacuum. The emergency bulkhead slammed shut 3 seconds later, sealing the corridor. Silence fell like a hammer. Ethan's ears rang. His shoulder bled freely now, but they were alive. Report, he managed. 3 dead, Riggs said quietly. Martinez, Chang, and Okoye. 3 more names added to the cost. 3 more people who'd followed him into this nightmare. Kira's voice cut through his grief. Captain, I've extracted the civilians from aft sections. Nightfall is moving to redock with you. But we've got a problem. 6 more Zethran hunters are inbound. ETA, 4 minutes. And the Coalition fleet just broadcast. They're ordering us to disengage immediately. On what grounds? Unauthorized military action. Violation of diplomatic protocols. They're threatening to revoke Earth's trade status if we don't withdraw. Of course they were. The galaxy's great powers would rather watch 300,000 people die than let humanity break their precious rules. Ethan looked at Riggs, at his exhausted, bloodied crew, at the Corvathi refugees huddled in corners, their elegant faces marked with confusion and hope. Tell the Coalition to stuff their protocols. We're not leaving until every survivor is off this ship. Captain, 6 hunters. We can't win that fight. Then we don't fight to win. We fight to buy time. How many colony ships are still functional? 4, maybe 5 if we can get their engines online. Get Henderson and every engineer we have working on it. Those ships run. We cover their escape. Riggs, prep all remaining explosives for remote detonation. If we're going down, we're taking Zethron with us. His XO stared at him. You're talking about a suicide run. I'm talking about making sure these people live. That's the mission. That was always the mission. Outside the colony ship, the 6 Zethran hunters closed in, their organic hulls pulsing with hungry light. And aboard the Nightfall, 1 human crew prepared to teach the galaxy what it meant to choose right over survival. The Nightfall's bridge shook as plasma fire hammered the shields. Integrity at 15%, Kira reported, her voice steady, despite the terror in her eyes. 1 more volley and we're done. Ethan strapped into the captain's chair. Through the viewport, he watched the 6 Zethran hunters circling like predators. Behind them, 4 Corvathi colony ships struggled to bring their engines online. 40,000 lives depending on a cargo hauler and a crew that had never fired a shot in anger before today. Henderson, status on those colony ships? 2 have partial power. Working on the others. Give me 10. Riggs, are the explosives ready? Charges placed on our hull, set for remote detonation. Captain, if we use them, we'll tear ourselves apart. Not if we aim the blast outward. Kira, I need you to position us between the Hunters and colony ship Theta 7. Put our port side toward the Zethran. When I give the order, Henderson blows the charges. The explosion should catch at least 2 hunters in the shockwave. Should, Riggs asked. That's the best I've got. Luis, any luck with that sabotaged reactor coupling? The engineer's voice came through from Theta 7. Negative, Captain. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing, and I found something else. A hidden transmitter in the coupling assembly. Someone was broadcasting the convoy's position to the swarm. The revelation hit like a physical blow. The Zethran hadn't found the convoy by chance. Someone had led them here. Someone had murdered 300,000 people for reasons Ethan couldn't begin to understand. Can you identify who placed it? The transmitter is Corvathi tech, built into the ship's original systems, a traitor among the refugees, someone who'd condemned their own people to death. Ethan forced the thought aside. Right now, the why didn't matter, only the survival. All ships, this is Captain Cross of the Nightfall. If you can hear this transmission, prepare for emergency burn on my mark. We're getting you out of here. The comm crackled. A Corvathi voice responded in broken standard. Human vessel, we cannot achieve safe velocity. Our navigational systems are offline. We will collide if we attempt flight. Kira, can you slave their nav systems to ours? Not all of them. Maybe 2 ships at once. The others will have to fly manual. Good enough. Link Theta 7 and Gamma 4. The others plot your own courses, anywhere away from here. A different Corvathi voice cut in. This one dripping with authority. Human Captain, this is Administrator Vex of Colony Ship Delta 2. We do not take orders from your species. You will withdraw and allow the Coalition fleet to handle this situation. Ethan's jaw clenched. Administrator, the Coalition fleet is 3 hours out. You'll be dead in 3 minutes. So unless you'd like to debate protocols while the swarm eats your passengers, I suggest you start your engines and run. How dare you speak to me with such... A plasma blast struck Delta 2, shearing off its communications array. The channel went dead. Guess that settles the debate, Henderson muttered. The Zethron hunters tightened their formation. They'd stopped probing attacks. Now they prepared for the kill. Their biocannons glowed with charging energy, 6 points of light like malevolent stars. Here they come, Kira whispered. Henderson, on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The charges detonated. The Nightfall's porthole erupted in a directed explosion that turned the cargo ship into a makeshift cannon. Shrapnel and superheated metal screamed into space in a cone of destruction. 2 Zethran hunters caught the full blast. Their organic hulls ruptured. One spun away, trailing frozen ichor. The other simply disintegrated. But the explosion cost them. The Nightfall's port side was gone, ripped away in jagged chunks. Atmosphere vented from a dozen hull breaches. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, sealing off entire sections. Damage report. Port decks 1 through 4 are gone, Riggs called out. We've lost cargo holds, crew quarters, and secondary life support. Hull integrity at 31%. We're held together by hope and prayer. Then we better hope hard. Colony ships execute burn now. 2 Corvathy vessels ignited their engines and leaped forward, following the Nightfall's navigational guidance. A 3rd ship attempted to follow, but its engines misfired, sending it tumbling into a debris field. The 4th ship, Administrator Vex's Delta 2, sat motionless. Delta 2, why aren't you moving? No response. The ship's running lights were active, life support functioning. But the engines remained cold. Then Ethan saw it. A single escape pod launching from Delta 2's aft section. One pod carrying maybe 20 people while 12,000 remained aboard. That coward, Riggs snarled. He's abandoning his own ship. The 4 remaining Zethran hunters noticed the escape pod. 2 broke formation to pursue it. The other 2 advanced on the Nightfall and the crippled Delta 2. Ethan made the calculation instantly. If the hunters caught that escape pod, they'd harvest everyone aboard. But if he pursued, he'd leave Delta 2 defenseless. 12,000 lives versus 20. The brutal math was clear. But Ethan remembered the elderly Corvathy's question. Why do you help us? Because it's the right thing to do. Kira, intercept course on that escape pod. Maximum burn. Captain Delta 2. I know. Do it anyway. The Nightfall lurched forward, her damaged hull screaming in protest. They closed on the escape pod in seconds. Ethan opened fire with the last of their mining charges, detonating them in a spread pattern between the pod and the pursuing hunters. The explosions bought precious seconds. The escape pod veered toward them. Get 'em aboard, Ethan ordered. Fast retrieval. We don't have time for gentle. The Nightfall's cargo bay doors opened. Magnetic grapples shot out and seized the escape pod, dragging it inside with bone-jarring force. The moment it was secured, Kira reversed thrust. Behind them, the 2 Zethran hunters opened fire on Delta 2. The colony ship died in silence, its elegant hull peeling apart under plasma fire. 12,000 Corvathy civilians vaporized in seconds. Their last moments broadcast across every channel as screams and prayers in a language Ethan didn't speak. He'd saved 20. He'd condemned 12,000. The escape pod's hatch opened. Administrator Vex emerged, his silver robes pristine, his large eyes filled with contempt. Human, you have interfered with... Ethan's fist caught him in the face. The Corvathy dropped like a stone. Lock him in the brig, Ethan said quietly. And someone check that escape pod for transmitters. I want to know if our traitor just climbed aboard. Outside, the 4 Zethran hunters regrouped and turned toward the Nightfall. And in the distance, 3 Corvathy colony ships burned towards safety, carrying survivors who would remember that when the galaxy abandoned them, 1 human crew had stayed. The brig was a converted storage closet that smelled like oil and regret. Administrator Vex sat against the wall, his silver robes torn and stained, one eye swelling from where Ethan had struck him. Around him huddled the 19 others from the escape pod, wealthy Corvathy, judging by their fine clothing and the jewelry that glittered even in the dim light. Ethan stood in the doorway, plasma cutter holstered but within reach. Behind him, Riggs held a scanner displaying the results of their search. "We found 3 transmitters," Riggs said. "All Corvathy tech, all broadcasting coordinates to the swarm. 2 were on members of the administrator's staff. The 3rd was sewn into his robes." Vex didn't deny it. His alien features twisted into something that might have been a smile. "Your species is so predictable," he said in perfect standard. "So eager to prove yourselves worthy, so desperate to be heroes. You've doomed yourselves for people who will never thank you." "Why?" Ethan asked. The question came out harder than he intended. "Why murder your own people?" "Because the Corvathy have grown weak, complacent. We hide behind coalition protocols while our empire crumbles. The swarm is strength. The swarm is evolution. Those who survive their harvest become part of something greater than themselves. They don't survive. They're consumed." Semantics. "I have secured passage for myself and my chosen followers. When the swarm finishes with this convoy, we will be granted positions of authority in their expansion. We will rule sectors while the coalition continues its pathetic debates." Ethan felt sick. This wasn't ideology or madness. It was cold calculation. Vex had sold 300,000 lives for power. "You won't live long enough to see it," Ethan said. "Neither will you, human. My signal has already been sent. The swarm knows exactly where you are. More hunters are coming, dozens of them. And when they arrive, your little act of heroism will end in fire and screaming." Ethan left without another word. The door sealed behind him with a hiss. On the bridge, the situation had deteriorated. The tactical display showed 4 Zethron hunters closing from multiple vectors. The 3 rescued colony ships were burning away at maximum velocity, but they wouldn't escape the system for another hour. And on long-range sensors, 14 new contacts had just dropped from subspace. 14 more hunters. Vex had been telling the truth. "We can't fight 18 ships," Kira said quietly. "We just can't." Ethan studied the display. The Nightfall was crippled, running on backup systems, her hull held together by emergency patches and stubbornness. His crew was exhausted, running on adrenaline and fumes. They'd lost 8 people. They'd saved thousands, and now the galaxy would watch them die for their trouble. "The Coalition fleet," Ethan said. "How far out are they now?" 2 hours, 17 minutes, and those colony ships need 1 hour to reach safe jump distance. Correct. Ethan made his decision. "Kira, new heading. Take us toward the incoming swarm fleet." The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at him. "Captain," Riggs said carefully, "that's suicide. It's a distraction. The swarm wants us dead for killing their hunters." "Fine. We give them a target they can't ignore. We keep them occupied while the colony ships escape. Once the survivors are safe, we jump out. Our jump drive is damaged. Henderson says we've got maybe 1 jump left before it tears itself apart. Then we better make it count. Henderson, I need everything you can give me. Engines, weapons, shields. Strip the life support from non-essential areas. Pull power from anywhere we don't absolutely need it." The engineer's voice came through, thick with exhaustion. "Captain, I'm already running on fumes. There's nothing left to give." "Then give me the fumes." "Riggs, contact the colony ships. Tell them to burn hard and don't look back. Tell them that Earth sends its regards." His exo hesitated. "They should know what you're doing, the sacrifice you're making. They should know that some people do the right thing because it's right, not because they want credit. Send the message." The Nightfall turned toward the incoming swarm fleet like a wounded animal baring its teeth. Her engines burned bright in the darkness, a defiant spark against the void. The 4 nearby hunters adjusted course to intersect. The 14 newcomers accelerated toward them. 18 Zethran warships converging on 1 crippled cargo hauler. "Broadcast on all coalition frequencies," Ethan said. "I want everyone to hear this." Kira opened a channel. Every ship in 3 systems would receive the transmission. Every coalition captain, every diplomat, every bureaucrat who'd built their careers on protocols and acceptable losses. "This is Captain Ethan Cross of the Earth vessel Nightfall. We are engaging Zethran swarm forces to protect Corvathy civilians. The Coalition rejected Earth's membership because we're too young, too reckless, too dangerous for your perfect galaxy. Maybe you're right. Maybe we don't understand your rules. But we understand that when people are dying, you help them. No debate. No committee. No calculation of diplomatic consequences. You just help. If that makes us unworthy of your coalition, then your coalition isn't worth joining. He paused. On the view screen, the Zethran hunters were close enough to see individual bioweapons emerging from their hulls. To any humans listening, remember this. The galaxy will tell you to stay quiet, stay small, follow the rules. Don't be loud. Be brave. Be the kind of people who run toward the fire instead of away from it. That's who we are. That's who we've always been. The first plasma bolts lands toward them. Ethan Cross, signing off. The Nightfall dove into hell. Plasma fire filled space with deadly light. Kira threw the ship into evasive maneuvers that physics said were impossible. The hull shrieked. Bulkheads collapsed. But they dodged and weaved through the kill zone, buying seconds with every desperate turn. Henderson's voice crackled through. Captain, I've rigged the remaining cargo containers as makeshift mines. Give the word and I'll blow them. Wait for it. Wait, 6 hunters closed from port, 8 from starboard. 4 directly ahead. The Nightfall was surrounded, trapped in a sphere of alien warships that pulsed with organic hunger. Now, the cargo containers detonated in a synchronized blast that turned space into a temporary inferno. 3 hunters disintegrated. 4 more spun away, damaged and burning. The rest pressed forward through the flames. An impact rocked the ship, then another. Warning klaxon screamed. Shield failure, Kira reported. Hull breaches on decks 2, 5, and 7. We're venting atmosphere. Seal what you can. Keep us moving. Another impact. The lights flickered. The gravity generators failed for 3 seconds, sending unsecured equipment floating before slamming back down. Ethan checked the tactical display. The colony ships were 30 minutes from safe jump distance, 30 minutes the Nightfall didn't have. Then something impossible happened. A new contact appeared on sensors. Then another. Then 12 more. Ships dropping from subspace in perfect formation between the Nightfall and the swarm fleet. Coalition vessels. Cruisers and destroyers bearing the insignias of 6 different species. And at their head, a Korvathi dreadnought that dwarfed everything else in the system. A transmission cut through the chaos, a female voice speaking standard with a crisp military precision. Zethran swarm vessels, this is Captain Sarah Quinn of the Coalition First Fleet. You are in violation of treaty boundaries. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. The Zethran hunters hesitated. For the first time since the battle began, they stopped firing. Ethan stared at the display in disbelief. They came. The Coalition actually came. Not just the Coalition, Riggs said quietly, pointing at the tactical screen. 5 more ships emerged from subspace. Smaller vessels flying Earth's colors. The cargo hauler Armstrong. The mining frigate Destiny. 3 patrol craft that had been conducting surveys 2 systems over. Every human ship within range had come running, and they'd brought the galaxy with them. The Zethran swarm fleet didn't withdraw. They attacked. 18 hunters opened fire simultaneously, targeting both the Coalition fleet and the Nightfall. Plasma beams and bioprojectiles filled space with lethal intent. The swarm had calculated the odds and decided annihilation was preferable to retreat. The Coalition responded with overwhelming force. The Korvathi dreadnought, a massive vessel called the Steadfast Resolve, fired its main cannons. Blue energy lances carved through 2 hunters in a single volley, reducing them to expanding clouds of debris. Coalition cruisers followed up with missile barrages that bloomed like deadly flowers across the battlefield. But the human ships did something different. The Armstrong, a cargo hauler nearly identical to the Nightfall, burned straight into the swarm formation and detonated its entire cargo hold. The explosion caught 3 hunters in a kinetic shockwave that crumpled their organic hulls like paper. Did they just... Kira trailed off, stunned. Kamikaze run, Ethan said softly. They evacuated the crew first, automated the approach. Those crazy bastards turned their ship into a missile. The Destiny followed suit, ramming a hunter at full burn. The impact shattered both vessels but cleared a path for Coalition forces to advance. The 3 patrol crafts scattered and harried the swarm fleet with hit-and-run attacks, drawing fire away from damaged Coalition ships. Earth's vessels were outmatched and outgunned, but they fought with a ferocity that made the disciplined Coalition forces look cautious by comparison. A transmission cut through on a human frequency. Nightfall, this is Captain Louise Brennan of the patrol craft Defiant. Heard your speech. Figured you could use backup. Earth's got your 6. Appreciated. Defiant. But you didn't have to come. This isn't your fight. You made it our fight when you showed the galaxy what humans do. Now shut up and let us help. The battle raged. 7 Zethran hunters remained, wounded but still lethal. They consolidated formation and targeted the Steadfast Resolve, recognizing it as the greatest threat. Their combined firepower hammered the Dreadnought's shields. Captain Quinn's voice came across all channels. All ships, focus fire on the Hunter cluster. Concentrate firepower and break their formation. The Coalition fleet obeyed with practiced precision. Coordinated volleys struck the swarm position. But the Zethran had adapted, repositioning to minimize damage and protect their wounded. Ethan watched the tactical display. The Coalition was winning but slowly, and every second of delay risked the fleeing colony ships. If even one hunter broke away to pursue them, thousands would die. Kira, can we still jump? Henderson says the drive might hold for one transit. Emphasis on might. That's all I need. Plot a jump solution that puts us directly behind the swarm cluster. Point-blank range. Captain, that's insane. We'll materialize inside their formation. The gravitational stress alone could tear us apart. I'm counting on it. Riggs, transfer all remaining power to the jump drive. Life support, weapons, shields, everything. I want one good jump. His XO moved to comply, then stopped. Sir, if we dump life support, we'll have maybe 90 seconds of air. Then we better jump fast. Henderson, rig our remaining systems to overload on a timer. Reactor, engines, whatever's left. I want the Nightfall to go out like a supernova. Understanding. Dawned on the bridge, Ethan wasn't planning an attack. He was planning a funeral pyre. Captain, Louise called from engineering. Still aboard Theta 7. The colony ship's engines are stable now. We can bring the survivors aboard the Coalition ships. You can evacuate. You don't have to do this. Someone has to make sure those hunters don't pursue the colony ships, and someone has to show the galaxy that Earth doesn't quit. Kira's hands moved across her console. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were wet. Jump solution plotted. Ready on your mark, Captain Quinn, Ethan broadcast. Pull your fleet back 3,000 kilometers. We're making a final run. Nightfall, what are you planning? Something reckless. Something dangerous. Something very human. A pause. Then Quinn's voice came back, quieter. Understood. All ships, fall back. Give the Nightfall room. The Coalition fleet withdrew in perfect formation. The Zethran hunters, sensing victory, pressed forward. Ethan looked at his crew. 18 people when they'd started. 10 remained. They were bloodied, exhausted, running on nothing but will and spite. They'd lost friends. They'd saved thousands. And now they would make one final statement. Anyone who wants to evacuate, the airlocks are open. No judgment. You've done more than enough. Nobody moved. Riggs smiled grimly. We started this together, Captain. We finish it together. Henderson's voice crackled through. Overload sequence armed. Once we jump, we've got 2 minutes before the whole ship goes critical. Make it 90 seconds. I don't want the swarm to have time to escape. Kira, execute. Jump on my mark. All hands. Brace for impact. The Nightfall's damaged jump drive screamed to life. Reality bent around the crippled vessel. The stars twisted into impossible geometries. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The universe folded. The Nightfall materialized in the center of the swarm formation, so close to the hunters that their organic hulls filled the view screen. Claxon screamed. The hull buckled from gravitational stress. Sparks exploded across every console, but they were there, right where they needed to be. Henderson, trigger the overload. Overload sequence initiated. 90 seconds to detonation. The Zethran hunters realized the trap too late. They turned to fire, but the Nightfall was already dead, her systems failing. Her crew holding on through sheer determination to the Coalition fleet, to the colony ships, to Earth. To anyone listening, this is Captain Ethan Cross. The Nightfall is gone, but the mission is complete. The convoy is safe. Tell Earth we did our job. Tell the galaxy that humanity stands for something. Tell the Corvathi that some debts don't require payment. The timer counted down. 60 seconds. Through the viewport, Ethan saw the steadfast resolve holding position, saw the human patrol craft maintaining their defensive screen, saw the colony ships burning towards safety. 40 seconds. "It's been an honor, Captain," Rid said quietly. "The honor was mine." 20 seconds. The Zethran hunters fired everything they had. Plasma washed over the Nightfall's dead hull. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the countdown. 10 seconds. Kira took Ethan's hand. Henderson sang an old Earth song about stars and sailors. Riggs closed his eyes. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. The Nightfall erupted. The reactor detonation created a miniature star that expanded in a sphere of pure annihilation. All 7 remaining Zethran hunters were consumed instantly, their organic matter converted to energy and ash. The shockwave rippled outward, a testament to one crew's defiance. And when the light faded, where 18 people had fought and died, there was only silence. The battle was over, the convoy was saved, and the galaxy would never forget the name Nightfall. 3 months later, the memorial stood on Earth under an open sky. 18 names carved into black stone. 18 lives given for people who weren't their own. The monument rose in Geneva, surrounded by gardens that would bloom every spring as a reminder that from sacrifice comes new life. Director Angela Morrison stood before the assembled crowd. Behind her, representatives from 47 coalition species watched in silence. The Corvathi delegation numbered in the hundreds, many wearing the traditional mourning colors of their people. "We gather to honor those who showed us what humanity means," Morrison began. "Not the word, but the spirit." Captain Ethan Cross and his crew didn't ask permission to be heroes. They didn't wait for approval. They saw people in need and they acted. In the front row sat the survivors, former cargo haulers and engineers who'd lost friends. Louise Garrett, who'd kept Theta 7 alive long enough for rescue. Louise Brennan, whose patrol craft had helped turn the tide. And behind them, 27,000 Corvathi civilians who owed their lives to one crippled ship. Morrison continued. "The Coalition has extended Earth full membership, effective immediately. No probationary period, no restrictions. They've cited the Nightfall's actions as proof of our species' character. Some call it justice. I call it too little, too late." A murmur ran through the crowd. Coalition representatives shifted uncomfortably. But Captain Cross didn't do this for membership. He didn't do it for recognition. He did it because 18 humans looked at the math, at the impossible odds, at the rules that said to walk away, and they chose differently. They chose to matter? Morrison stepped aside. A Corvathi elder approached the podium, moving slowly with the weight of years and grief. This was Counselor Terran, the same elderly Corvathi who'd questioned Ethan aboard Theta 7. "I asked Captain Cross why humans helped us when we had denied them," Terran said in halting but clear standard. "He said it was the right thing to do. I did not understand then. My species built our civilization on logic, on careful calculation of benefit and cost. We rejected Earth because the numbers did not favor them." Terran placed a weathered hand on the monument. "Captain Cross taught me that some things cannot be measured. Courage, compassion, the willingness to stand between the innocent and the darkness, knowing you will likely fall. These things have no weight on our scales. But they have infinite value to those who receive them." The elder turned to face the Corvathi delegation. "We failed Earth. We judged them primitive because they had not learned to hide their hearts behind protocols. We called them reckless because they felt deeply enough to act without hesitation. We were wrong. The Nightfall showed us that calculation without courage is cowardice dressed in wisdom." Terran produced a small object from his robes. a crystalline sculpture in the Karvathi style, depicting a ship with broken wings still flying toward the stars. This is the eternal flame, our highest honor for sacrifice beyond measure. It has been awarded only 7 times in our history. Today it becomes 8. I place it here for the crew of the Nightfall, who proved that the measure of a species is not in their age or their technology, but in what they choose to do when no one is watching and nothing requires them to care. The elder placed the sculpture at the monument's base. It caught the sunlight and threw dancing patterns across the carved names. The ceremony continued for another hour. Speeches from coalition admirals, testimonials from rescued civilians. Captain Quinn herself appeared via hologram to describe the battle and the moment she'd watched a cargo hauler make a suicidal jump to save strangers. But the moment that mattered came at the end. A young Korvathi child, no more than 6 years old, approached the monument with her parents. She carried a single flower, a native earth rose that someone had taught her to hold carefully to avoid the thorns. She placed it at the base of the memorial next to the eternal flame. "Thank you for my mama," she whispered to the names carved in stone. Her mother had been aboard Theta 7, among the 40,000 who'd lived because 18 humans had refused to calculate acceptable losses. The child stepped back. Her parents bowed deeply, a gesture of profound respect in Korvathi culture. Then another survivor approached. Then another. Then hundreds. They came with flowers and offerings and tears. They came with children who would grow up knowing that strangers had died so they could live. They came with gratitude that transcended species and language. By evening, the memorial was buried in flowers. Morrison stood alone as the crowds dispersed, watching the sunset over the monument. Footsteps approached from behind. She turned to find Administrator Vex in restraints flanked by coalition guards. The traitor looked smaller now, broken. His trial had been swift, and his sentence severe. He would spend the rest of his life in a coalition detention facility knowing he'd murdered his own people for power he'd never receive. "Why am I here?" he asked bitterly. "Because I wanted you to see this," Morrison said, gesturing to the flowers, to the monument, to the crowds of grateful Korvathi still gathered in the distance. "You sold your people to the swarm because you thought strength was the only thing that mattered. That cooperation was weakness. That compassion was a luxury the galaxy couldn't afford." She stepped closer to him. "Captain Cross proved you wrong. He proved that the strongest thing a person can do is care when caring costs everything. That the most powerful force in the universe isn't weapons, or fleets, or ancient empires. It's the choice to help when help is needed, regardless of the price." Vex said nothing. There was nothing to say. The guards led him away. Morrison never saw him again. That night, in orbit around Earth, the Coalition fleet held a vigil. 47 ships from across the galaxy powered down their weapons and activated their memorial lights. For 1 hour, the night sky above Earth glowed with points of light, each one a promise. The promise that the nightfall would not be forgotten. The promise that Earth's choice would echo across centuries. The promise that sometimes, against all odds and all logic, doing the right thing was enough. In the weeks that followed, humanity spread across the coalition. Human ships joined exploration fleets. Human engineers worked on colony worlds. Human diplomats sat in councils that had denied them for decades. But everywhere they went, they carried one message. Earth wasn't meant to save them. But one human did, and in that single act of defiance, 18 people had